Hey everybody, this video is about communicating with your own selves. You are the indwelling spirit, and your cells are like a microcosm of a galaxy that you've been given stewardship of. Now, your physical self is not really what you eternally truly are, but it is something you've been given stewardship of. So, whatever you do with it in this life has a lot to do with what you'll be given or not given next. Story time. So, I've probably referenced this before, but years ago, when I lived in a city, there was this path I could go run on. So I used to go run an estimate of 5 or 6 miles total was this same course I would run. I got kind of into it. It was kind of therapeutic. I enjoyed it, and I did it quite frequently. For a few years, I did it most days of the week. And during that time, there were 3 different times when I made an instantaneous, very significant increase to how fast I could run that same course. For the sake of today's discussion, I'm going to talk about the biggest change that occurred. This one was all three times this occurred. It was a big deal, but this one was the biggest difference, the most profound change. And then I'll talk about some other things that changed when I was given from the inside this insight, this inspiration, this divinely inspired concept that people are missing this opportunity. It's like this light came on, and I realized all my cells, they're listening to me. And if I'm not taking real responsibility, and if I'm not picking up that opportunity, you know, I'm letting them be programmed by whatever is influencing my thoughts and feelings, things in this world. And I look around and I'm like, no, 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 thank you. So I became really inspired from the inside that there's this amazing opportunity here. And so, like before eating, I made a habit of reminding myself to, and this is essentially a prayer. It's just not the formal um, system kind of prayer that people have been taught, but it was to focus on, okay, what I'm communicating with myself, because ultimately, whether you know this or not, when you're doing this, when you're communicating with yourselves, to whatever degree your communications are true and real and going to have an effect, it's because they're in alignment with the principles of the ultimate creator. And therefore, you're working in cooperation with the ultimate creator, and therefore the ultimate creator is the one doing the changes. However you want to look at that. And I know that mankind has made that super confusing, but I could see it. It was clear. So I started practicing it. Um, so before eating, I would program my cells to make the very best use of whatever nutrients, to take care of each other, to create harmony throughout this galaxy where, if there's an organ or gland over here that needs that, make sure they get it, make sure you share things properly for the best interest of all things in the system. Before I would go for this run, and during going for this run, I was telling myself how easy it is. Instead of before where it's like I'm pushing my VO2 max and I'm struggling with oxygen debt, and I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about how hard it is, and I would just think about pushing harder. Just push harder, push through that fatigue and that discomfort and that pain, and up your threshold. Just normal discipline stuff. But this really changed it. Now I was thinking about it in a completely different way. I was telling myself how easy this is and how much more capacity they have than they've ever used before. It's like you're so much more capable, and we don't need to have all these these conflicts and limitations, we need to experience how easy this really is. And I was thinking these thoughts and having these feelings. My run time, the very first time I tried this, and I did say having the feelings, it's not a subliminal, it's not some message that you just repeat, it's not a chant, it's not a ritual, it's not repetition. It wasn't anything like that. It was divinely inspired. The words were whatever was truthful to me at the time, and the feelings came along with it, strong feelings of gratitude, of freedom, of love and life and vitality, those kind of things. And it worked. My running time drastically improved the first time I did this. And that run was forever much easier to go at a higher pace than I had before by using this. So another thing I did is I started communicating youthfulness to myself instead of age. The whole world was already telling me I was old way back then and everything's downhill from here. And I watched everybody else manifest that, and I realized, okay, I'm watching them program their cells to decay and decompose and strain and struggle with age-related debility or whatever it is. And I realized that you could set the age when people expect that at any arbitrary number, and they would just follow it and program themselves that way. I was just given the vision, given the eyes to see all this. So I started doing the opposite. Um, and sure enough, during those years when I started practicing this, all the way until now, I notice more youthfulness, physical youthfulness, as well as mental, because your brain function, your brain's part of your body. It's in similar condition to the rest of your body. So the youthfulness thing is real. I mean, I have so much energy that there's a temptation on my rest day, like today, the seventh day, the Sabbath day. There's a temptation to do stuff. And I don't mind playing like some sports with the kids on a rest day, something like that. I'm not saying I'm not allowed to do activity, but I look around at all these projects and I just want to work, 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 and go, 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 and do, do, do. And I have to remind myself that's not what this day is for. It's a day of gratitude and feeling God's presence, which I always do, but slowing down to feel it more. Gratitude that I don't have to work every day. Gratitude that in trust and faith my path is made more clear and better. And key things occur that wouldn't if I never slowed down. But my point is my energy is so high. I don't sleep as much as I think I should because I just don't need it. Um, and I know the difference because I used to suffer from a lot of insomnia, and it was horrible suffering indeed. It made me incredibly dysfunctional. Lack of sleep is truly brutal, especially when it's chronic. Some of you know this well. But right now, the amount of hours I sleep is never what I calculate, if I was to guess, what it should be, because I just don't need it. I wake up, I'm awake, I am ready to go. I feel great, I'm recharged. So my cells have become much more efficient. They harmonize better. The different systems of the body communicate and share resources for the betterment of all because, unlike the way the world does things in its sinful fallen nature, where you have different groups in society or different individuals trying to hoard things for themselves at the expense of others, and that's the business model. It's a dog eat dog world. You got to screw your brother over to get ahead, but you're not getting ahead. You're just condemning yourself to bigger future problems, and you're falling further from the truth and access to the light and real vitality in life itself. So I just look at the upside down world and I just reverse engineer and do the opposite within my own galaxy, and it works wonderfully. But you have to be inspired divinely to know you can. You have to have the feelings to go with it. This is why I don't really believe in the practice of subliminals. Now that I've had time to really think about that for myself, I really just more and more, I think it's kind of worthless because I think repeating a ritual or repeating a chant or saying words over and over, in and of itself, if you don't have the feeling, the inspiration, the divine, glorious joy of what it is you're saying, it's not really going to do anything because your cells, they don't speak English or Portuguese or French or anything else. They speak the language of what you really believe. That's what they speak. It doesn't require words. So when you're saying words, it's because you speak words as a human, and that's nice because you're organizing what it is you're even thinking and focusing on. But you need the feelings that come with it, and there has to be an actual faith in what you're doing. And I don't mean a blind faith because you were told to believe some crazy thing by somebody else. I mean that it's truly inspired, and you see it and you believe it, and therefore you feel it. When you can put all those things together, it becomes an action. It's not just a mental activity, it's an actual action, and the action is taking place throughout your galaxy, your cellular galaxy. Your spirit is coordinating your nervous system. Your nervous system is coordinating your glands and your organs, and things are circulating and things are sharing and things are benefiting each other. Because if you don't have that, if you have disharmony where one organ is taking too much energy and it's stealing things that should go downstream to another organ, now you have a body that's functioning the way the model you've been given in this world, a sinful fallen model, a dog eat dog system where your body's destroying itself because it's operating according to what it's been told and showed and programmed, and you haven't taken the sovereignty to do it in a more truthful way that's more in alignment with the principles of the actual creator of all things. And when you do, if you do, you discover that by operating by the principles of actual life, vitality and harmony and love and unconditional goodness, the only limitation to how good it can be is your own limits of imagination, limits of faith, limits of focus, limits of feeling, limits of being able to align yourself with these truths. You yourself are the limiting factor once you've taken sovereignty of this. Up until that point, you aren't even the limiting factor. It's the society and the world and all the broken paradigms operating around you that are the limiting factor. If you see some of my videos, like a two plus hours of lateral raises or 11,000 nonstop leg extensions, and on former channels I had a lot of different transcendental sort of training sessions like that. Rather than pushing myself through those with willpower, which would have been truly grueling and boring and just, there, when you go about it that way, it's really difficult to sit there and focus on repping when your muscles are burning, and just do that for hours without stopping. You will talk yourself out of it. If you're trying to do it just to do it, it's like half an hour into that, you're going to be like, what's the point? And an hour into it, you're going to talk yourself out of it because you're going to have all kinds of rational reasons why you don't need to do this anyway. But when I did those things, I was in this great state of like joy and knowing I could and knowing it's easy instead of hard. If you're 2,000 reps into leg extensions and you know you're trying to go like another 8 or 9,000, and you're thinking about that burn and how much further you have to go, it's going to feel all the heavier and the burn's going to get all the worse. But if what you're thinking is how easy this is and how wonderful it feels to have this much energy flowing through you, you just count the reps because you need to count the reps, but you're not really caught up in how far you are and how far you have to go. Time starts slipping away. It becomes more of a flow state, And your cells can do amazing things like clear lactic acid faster than what's normally considered humanly possible, even faster than I can normally do it myself. When I'm in the right state, my cells respond and they show me that they are listening, for lack of better terms, and they are responding, and they are following my guidance, and they are following my inspiration for them. So it's very, very interesting when you see your cells as like this galaxy of living little beings of sorts, and you're the spirit, you're the great spirit they listen to. So there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of sovereignty that can be taken up here. Think about examples of testimonials of people that have healed themselves from incurable so-called diseases. because something snapped inside of them. Instead of dwelling on how screwed they were, like the medical system tells you to, something snapped and they went the exact opposite way, and they started truly believing. Some of these people didn't even do anything physically healthy. They didn't even change the very habits that physically had helped destroy their DNA to start with. They literally just started believing so much that they would heal from the inside. Now, some of them had a religious model or some version of God that they were praying to or focusing on or believing in, and others didn't even have that. They didn't even have that maybe externalized idea of a deity to ask. But in either case, what worked was these people were programming their own biology to fix the problem. And when something happened that pushed them or awakened that in them and got them to actually do this with a true sense of feeling, a true sense of conviction that it was true, a truly inspired state of conviction, people healed themselves from terminal diseases. And you can find all sorts of testimonials of horrific late stage fifth degree cancer all throughout the body kind of things. I've seen it everything from semi amazing to truly ridiculously amazing documented cases. And I'm a guy who's experienced miracles himself. I mentioned a few in a recent video, but I've seen bigger miracles, documented by others. And some of them, I mean, these people came from all different backgrounds and all different worldviews and all different religious or non religious views. But what they were doing, whether you're religious or hopefully more so just a person who perceives that there is an awesome creator of all things, what they were actually doing was they were aligning with the actual principles of that ultimate creator. And in their own stewardship of this a microcosm of a greater macrocosm, they effectively stimulated and inspired all these cells in these orbits in these little solar systems within to do what they're perfectly capable of doing, which is aligning with the principles of life, eliminating the problem, working together and fixing it and healing. You know? So I mean, it's right there. It's Some would say, "Oh, whatever, bro. That's just the placebo effect." I mean, how blind? How blind? So what you're telling me is that if you can change your biology, heal incurable diseases, make yourself twice as strong, twice as fast, whatever, with just the placebo effect, that what? What? I think you missed the whole point. Maybe name it something different from the placebo effect so you can sort of snap out of that trance and realize the power in what was just described. Just the placebo effect? So you'd rather have like toxic drugs that try to cover some symptom and shorten your life and feed systems of oppression and violation and darkness, then go ahead and do something much more powerful and effective and empowering that you can do without any of those nasty shortcuts and sellouts to systems you really shouldn't be feeding anyway. I mean, think about it. Think about the profoundness of this, And if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear and the inner voice to confirm it, you can practice this and you should. Human beings have been told a lot of ridiculous limiting ideas about what they are and what they're here for, but you've been given a temple. You've been given a temple. You could call it a temple, or like the way I visualize it, you could call it an entire galaxy of living, orbiting, like kind of like micro solar systems, basically, that are all in communication with each other, at least they should be. And if you clean out this galaxy from all the interfering things, parasites and toxins, and at the root of it all, incredibly destructive, limiting philosophies of life, most people have never checked for themselves to really think about where it even comes from and how maybe they shouldn't have allowed themselves to be programmed by some authority with a bunch of crooked worldly agendas. You can take sovereignty over this galaxy. And it can become an amazing interstellar connected system where they're all sharing resources from their different solar systems effectively so that the whole can thrive. This is really the principle of service to others instead of service to self. See, service to self entities, they will do every wretched, demonically possessed thing, like drink the blood of screaming live children they're sacrificing, to try to steal life to upgrade this thing, but it doesn't work that way. Death creates death and distortion. You can't fight the principles of a truly awesome, wonderful, benevolent, infinitely awesome creator with your own wicked anti-truth and actually succeed. It just doesn't work. And the idea that you have to sacrifice something and steal something and murder something to better yourself, again, these are false, pagan, satanic, upside down, insane principles that just aren't true. The truth is, you have a higher power that you can align with that would allow you to become a source of life within yourself and even extend it to others. Nothing has to be murdered. Nothing needs to be stolen from. And if you want higher vitality and truth and sovereignty over this galaxy, you can't participate in any of that garbage anyway. You have to take it the exact opposite direction. The world's inverted, so flip it the other way. Be a rebel for the light of truth and start within your own galaxy that you've already been given stewardship of. Instead of going around yakking at everybody else about how you know so much and they need to believe what you believe and they need to live your lifestyle and they need to do what you say, that's all just mental masturbation nonsense anyway. Start here. Start with a galaxy of little orbits and solar systems you've already been given stewardship over. And if you can be a good steward of that, because you actually can align with the eternal perfect principles of a perfect creator, you're going to be ready for a whole lot more when this incarnation is over. All right? So those are a few examples. Those are insights I was given from the inside. You could call it the Holy Spirit, but you don't have to. You could call it the living spirit of the living God dwelling within this temple. You could call it the source. You could call it the force. You could call it anything. Don't call it late for dinner. No, I'm just kidding. That was cheesy. But the principles are there, and man thinks that what word you call it and how you break it down into a control system is what's important. It's not. It's learning to work with what's real. If you can work with the actual creative principles of the creator, you are already serving that creator. If there is such a thing as worship that's important, it's a voluntary act of making creation better by aligning with the principles of the actual creator living within you and embodying more. And what better way to do it than this temple and this galaxy you were given? That you are the indwelling ghost, the indwelling spirit these cells are already listening to. And if they're not, it's because they're listening to a bunch of other nasty programming. This is a great opportunity to bear fruit, bear spiritual fruit that is truly powerful. And you're learning this way. You're learning to use the principles of creation and life versus death, which is what this world teaches. Okay, enough preaching or whatever this is. The voice of one crying out in the wilderness, huh? Make ready the way for the living spirit of the living God. Start here. Take what you've been given to show who you are and do it. Much love and beauty and healing and radiance and freedom and spiritual illumination and love and transformation of all creation. To each and all with ears to hear, the eyes to see, and a heart that is open to embody it.